trust building is probably one of the most essential things that needs to happen when it comes to community engagement and partnerships. And it relates to communication, it relates to leadership development, it also relates to understanding and ongoing relationships. Can the panel, can you each address what you've done or what you would suggest in the way of trust building with community?
Go ahead. Just an important step of that is immersing yourself in the community of whether you're a physician or researcher, as part of a community. How do you, better understand the needs of community by becoming more a part of that community? So in working with other physicians, it means that there's a lot of time that you volunteer, I think, on various committees. So I think it's the time that you put into it that creates those relationships and trust.
I think it's going back to I'm like a broken record. I think we build trust by ensuring people understand us. And sometimes people don't trust us because they don't really understand what we're trying to do. And I think the learning process, building capacity so people can understand not only what we're trying to do, but going back to the multicultural element of this work. So community need to know that we're committed to allow them to learn, and we will listen to them when we build our priorities. I think that will build trust in a big level.
So just to build on that, I think one of the most essential characteristics to have is humility. And I think you must approach all of this work with great humility and the willingness to listen. If you don't go in with the humility that you don't know and the understanding that you don't know and the respect for the other, whoever the other is, the other organization, yep. the other person in the community. I think if we don't have that as a foundational value of this coalition, I think it will really inhibit our work. So I think we really have to have that humility and that knowledge of compassion and understanding at whatever level that we're building our collaboratives.
Thank you for that. I just wanted to add one comment. Those were all excellent comments. When it comes to trust building, language is an issue. So it's not just language being a different language, but it's also jargon. And we did a focus group a couple of weeks ago, and we used the term preventive, and found that people in the group did not understand what the word preventive health meant. So that's an example. And again, if you could comment a little bit about language and jargon and how that all works.
So I'd like to say we did a study a few years ago at the Academy of Pediatrics where we actually focus grouped across the country messaging for children under 5. We took the evidence-based messages we were trying to deliver and had 10 focus groups across the country to actually test that with parents and get feedback from parents, and you do get your eyes opened. There were clearly messages we were giving that are evidence-based that they were very open to and understood, and others where we really had to go back to the drawing board and say, we missed this way. But I think to engage parents and families and community members on messaging itself is very important.
Yeah, and I think going back to literacy levels, I think if I look around the room, how many MDs, PhDs, and PH we have in this room, literacy level are very high. So we just need to be aware, and how can we, there are instruments that we can test our messaging. Sometimes you need to go to a 7th, 8th grade level of literacy, and maybe trying to translate that and also use the community to test our messaging. Because sometimes even we use electronic instrument to check literacy, when we go out there, people still think it's too high. Mm-hmm. So we just need to really have, going back to learning strategy, what will be the literacy level that we're gonna start printing materials or translating materials, because only translating in a second language is not gonna do the trick.
And I would say it's true not only of literacy, but what constructs are we actually tapping into? Yeah. So for example, in looking at feedback from parents to lose weight, that might have less meaning in an African American community. So I'm also thinking about feedback to gain weight. And sort of some better understanding what are the constructs that may not be have the same meaning for a different population.
And I guess I would like to add the word worry. We would all assume that most everyone in our community understands the word worry. But in some cognitive interviewing that we did, we found a woman who said, oh no, I don't worry about the problems that I have with my diabetes or that might come upon me. But I lay in bed at night for 2 hours and I pray to God that I won't lose my leg, that I won't have the kidney problems. But yet, our definition of worry is, and she had answered on a scale, I have 0 of worry.
But you have big faith. You have a big faith versus
So what she was saying is, I don't worry, but I have faith, but yet we would interpret that as worry. One final question.
Nora, you have a question? You okay? Okay.
Oh, we've got 2.
Quickly, the culture that we have is for the researcher to go to the community and find out, potentially do a needs assessment, find out what they find, and then promote it accordingly and try to get the research done. How do we reverse the trend? How do we get the community to decide what their needs are, come to the researcher, find the right researcher, and then move forward so that they are an active, engaged participant?
So I think there are sort of multiple models that could be used, and so Bob, thank you for that question, but I think it means that we value what communities have to offer. So it's not only about what we gain from getting information, but how do we sort of gain perspective by valuing what communities have to offer. And that to me is part of the relationship building and trust of valuing and sort of acknowledging what they bring and sort of encouraging those relationships for them to reach out. So it's a bi-directional kind of process.
So I want to tell you a brief story about a friend of mine, Ken Slaw, who had a son with familial dysautonomia. He started a foundation, a parent advocacy group. They actually hired 2 researchers who work out of Brandeis, who have spent the last 20 years researching that disease and have come up with nutritional therapy for it. So I'm just telling you that the paradigm can be shifted quite dramatically and can put the people who are affected in charge of the process if we're open to it.
I think the other element is looking at us in this room to look into what is the culture of learning and what is my role in this process. Because if we always think ourselves, we are the researcher versus I'm a partner. I'm a partner to inquiry, I'm a partner to learn, and I'm willing to come together in a partnership to set priorities to work together. So that's a completely mental model, which is very different. So I think us can make that shift by start thinking differently ourselves versus we go out there. Because if not, it's going back, we love acting, we love plays. We all have a role in our life when right now I have a role of a panelist. But right now the role of the researcher is very ingrained in many of us. So we look into the mirror, what is my role into this grant as a researcher? Maybe a different role, so I can be successful.
I will comment, Rosa.
Yes.
I think it's important, I like the comment that you made. We need to engage our communities through the models. Recently we have the Promotores de Salud, which has been a wonderful experience for me because we're learning so much from engaging individuals in the community who we ask to participate with us to learn about breast and cervical cancer. And it has expanded through some funding by Arts Canon into a Healthy Families program that we now have engaged 100 Latina families. And we've learned a lot along the way, and we hope to do some focus groups. This is a very good opportunity for a researcher to work with us to learn more about the communities that we're serving. So I think we have to look at not only paid outreach workers, but also the community, some of the models that have worked, and keep these communities engaged with us.
Thank you, Nora.
Okay, and I think there was one final question here.
Hi, I'm Kathy Zork. I'm a pediatrician with Nemours, and I work with Nemours Health Prevention Services. And I'm aware we're very Newcastle County centric here with a lot of wealth and research and resources here. I'm not sure how many people from Kent County and Sussex County are here at the table. And I want to reach out to Rosa because you seem to have reached out to other counties, and I think each community is a little bit different. I think we've learned that, and how you can help make sure that we are benefiting Delaware as a state.
Yeah, I think we're starting creating like community councils in those areas. And there's the one that are coming to the community conversations process. And to those communities, I think we can leverage those to really help us work on this grant. But going back to work with them in a way that they will understand, I think will be very valuable, and they will have interest in joining us, for sure.
I just want to point out, I don't know if there's somebody from the Kent group, but Peggy Geisler is back there from Sussex Community Coalition. And I don't know, Peggy, if there's anybody else here, but I think we do have very robust coalitions. It's just connecting with them.
Okay. Thank you, panel, for a fabulous presentation. So we've heard from the panel, and so oftentimes we ask, are we there yet? And so as we move forward and develop community-engaged research, we want to ask ourselves, are we there? But who is at the table? Are the right people at the table? And then we may say, no, we're not there yet. But why? Probably it's more important to ask, how can we get involved? What can we do together rather than focus on yes or no, but move beyond that to say, how can we get involved, both from a research perspective and from a community perspective, because together is what and how we will make progress. So partner with the community, determine what's important to the community, and we must accept that, either if we are a researcher or a community member, and how can we maximize community health. So in closing, I ask another question. Could a greater miracle take place than for us to look through each other's eyes for an instant? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much to our panel. With great responsibility comes great hunger. So we are going to break for lunch with 2 reminders. As you grab lunch, please come back to the tables. We're going to have our lunchtime keynote speaker, Dr. Pat Quinlan, start at 1 o'clock. Second, if you have a couple of seconds and you have yet to register for a workshop, please go outside to the registration desk and sign up, and we'll get your rooms organized. So thank you very much. Enjoy lunch. We'll see you back in about 20 minutes.